And here we are. All right. Thank you out there in video land. Thank you for joining us. Today we're continuing our reading and discussion of Dante's Inferno, and we're moving on to Canto 15. So with that, I will ask our good friend from Rio de Janeiro to begin the Italian reading.
Ok, e allora canto 15. Ora ci importa l'un dei duri margini e il fumo del ruscel di sopra aduggia, sì che dal fuoco salva l'acqua e gli argini, quali i fiamminghi tra giusanti e breggia, temendo il fiotto che inver lor s'avventa, fanno lo schermo perché il mar si fugge, e quali i padovan lungo la Brenta per difender lor ville e lor castelli, anziché chiarentana il caldo senta. Tali immagine eran fatti quelli, tutto che nel si altri nessi grossi, qual che si fosse lo maestro feli. Già eravan della selva rimossi, tanto che non avrei visto dov'era, perch'io indietro rivolto mi fossi, quando incontramo d'anime una schiera che venia lungo l'argine e ciascuna ci riguardava come sol da sera. Guardare un altro sotto nuova luna, e si ver noi aggiusavan le ciglia, come il vecchio sartor fa nella cruna. Così, adocchiato da cotal famiglia, fui conosciuto da un che mi prese per lo lembro e gridò: qual maraviglia! E io, quando il suo braccio a me distese, ficcà gli occhi per lo cotto aspetto, sì che il viso abbruciato non difese la conoscenza sua al mio intelletto, e chinando la mano alla sua faccia rispose: siete voi qui, ser Brunetto? E quelli: oh figliol mio, non ti dispiaccia se Brunetto latino un poco teco ritorna indietro e lascia andar la traccia. E disse lui: quanto posso ven preco, e se volete che non voi mi asseggia, farol, se piace a costui che voce secco. Oh figliol, disse, qual di questa greggia s'arresta punto, già se poi 100 anni senza rostarsi quando il fuoco il feggia. Però va oltre, e ti verrò a pani e poi raggiungerò alla mia masnada, che va piangendo i suoi eterni danni, e non osava scendere dalla strada per andar par di lui, ma il capo chino tenea con l'uom che reverente vada. E il cominciò: qual fortuna o destino, anzi l'ultimo di qua giù ti mena, e chi a questi che mostra il cammino. Next.
Lassù di sopra, in la vita serena, risposio lui, mi smorì in una valle, avanti che l'età mia fosse piena. Pur ier mattina lei volsi le spalle, quest'ima parve, tornandio in quella, e riducemi ca per questo cale. Ed egli a me, se tu segui tua stella, non puoi fallire a glorioso porto, se ben m'accorsi nella vita bella. E s'io non fossi sì per tempo morto, veggendo il cielo a te così benigno, dato t'avrei all'opera conforto. Ma quello ingrato popolo maligno che discesi di fiesole ab antico e tiene ancor del monte del macigno, ti si farà per tuo ben far nemico, ed è ragion che tra li lasi sorbi si disconvien fruttare il dolce fico. Vecchia fama nel mondo li chiama orbi, gente avad invidiosa e superba, dai lor costume fa che tu ti forbi. A tua fortuna tanto onore ti serba, che l'una parte e l'altra avranno fame, di te allunghi fia, dal becco l'erba. Faccian le bestie fiesolane strame, e lor medesme non tochen la pianta, s'alcuna surge ancora in lor letame, in cui riviva la sementa santa di quei romani che vi rimasser quando fu fatto il nido di malizia tanta. Next, please.
Se fossi tutto pieno il mio dimando, rispusolo lui, voi non sareste ancora della umana, natura posta in bando, che la mente me fitta, e ormai ancora la cara e buona immagine paterna. E voi quando nel mondo, a ora ad ora, m'insegnavate come l'um s'eterna, e quanto io la abbia in grado, mentre io vivo, convien che nella mia lingua si scherzi. Ciò che in arte del mio corso scrivo, e sul bollo a ciosar con altro testo, adonna che saprà, sale arrivo. Tanto voghi io che vi sia manifesto, perché mia coscienza non mi gara, can la fortuna, come viol, son presto. Non è nuovo ali orecchi miel tara, però gli fortuna la sua rota, come le piace, e il villan la sua mara. Lo mio maestro allora in su la gotta, destra se volse indietro e rigardonmi, poi disse, bene ascolta chi la nota, né per tanto de men parlando vommi, con ser brunetto, e domando chi sono, li suo compagni pui notti e pui sommi, ed elia a me. Saper d'alcuno è buono, degli altri fia lodable tacerci, che il tempo saria corto a tanto suono. Insomma, sappi che tutto furcersi e literate grande e di gran fama d'un peccato mendesmo al mondo lerci. That's it.
Christian sen va con quella turba gramma, e Francesco da corso anche vedervi s'avessi avuto di tal tigna bramma, colui potei che dal servo de servi fu trasmutato d'arno in Baclioni, dove lasciò li mal protesi nervi, di più direi mal venire il sermone più lungo esser non più, però che il veggio là surger nuovo fumo del sabbione. Gente vien con la quale esser non deggio, siete raccomandato il mio tesoro, nel qual io vivo ancora e più non cheggio. Poi si rivolse e parve di coloro che corrono a Verona il drappo verde per la campagna e parve di costoro quelli che vince, non colui che perde.
All right, great, thank you. Now we will go on to the English. And whoever's the first reader in English, please begin.
Yeah, it's me.
Okay,
Canto 14.
15.
No,
15. We're Canto 15.
no, 15, sorry. Yeah. Now one of those stone margins bear us on, and the river's vapors hover like a shade, sheltering the banks and the water from the flames. As the Flemings, living with the constant threat of flood tides rushing in between Wissant and Bruges, build their dikes to force the sea back. As the Paduans build theirs on the shores of Brenta to protect their town and homes before warm weather turns Carientana's snow to rushing water. So were these walls we walked upon constructed, though the engineer, whoever he may have been, did not make them as high or thick as those. We left the wood behind, so far behind by now, that if I stopped to turn around, I'm not sure it would no longer have been seen. When we saw a troop of souls come hurrying towards us beside the bank, and each of them looked us up and down, as some men look at other men at night when the moon is new, they strained their eyebrows, squinting hard at us as an old tailor might in his needle's eye. Next.
Thus scrutinized by such a family, by someone I was recognized, who seized my garment's hem and cried out, "What a marvel!" And I, when he stretched forth his arm to me, on his baked aspect fastened so mine eyes, that the scorched countenance prevented not his recognition by my intellect. And bowing down my face unto his own, I made reply, "Are you here, Ser Brunetto?" And he, "Make not displeased me, O my son, if a brief space with thee, Brunetto Latini, backward return and let the trail go on." I said to him, "With all my power I ask it, and if you wish me to sit down with you, I will, if he please, for I go with him." Next, please. Didi?
"Our son," he said, "whoever of this herd a moment stops, lies then 100 years, nor fans himself when smiteth him the fire. Therefore, go on. I at thy skirts will come, and afterward will I rejoin my band, which goes lamenting to its eternal doom." I did not dare go down from the road level to walk with him, but my head bowed, I held as one who goeth reverently. And he began, "What fortune or what fate before the last day leadeth thee down here? And who is this that showeth thee the way?" "Up there above us in the life serene," I answered him. "I lost me in a valley, or ever yet my age had been completed. But yestermorn I turned my back upon it. This one appeared to me returning thither, and homeward leadeth me along this road." Next.
And he to me, "If thou thy star do follow, thou canst not fail thee of a glorious port, if well I judged in thee life beautiful. And if I had not died so prematurely, seeing heaven thus benignant unto thee, I would have given thee comfort in the work. But that ungrateful and malignant people, which of old time from Phasaeli descended, and smack still of the mountain and the granite, will make itself for thy good deeds thy foe. And it is right, for among crabbed sorbs it ill befits the sweet fig to bear fruit. Old rumor in the world proclaims them blind, a people avaricious, envious, proud. Take heed that of their customs thou do cleanse thee. Next, please.
Your destiny, your destiny reserves for you such honor. Both parties shall be hungry to devour you, but the grass shall be far from the goat. Let the Viezolan beasts make forage of themselves, but spare the plant, if on their dung heap any still springs up. The plant in which lives on the holy seed of those few Romans who remained when it became the home of so much malice. If all my prayers were answered, I said to him, you would not yet be banished from mankind. For I remember well, and now lament the cherished, kind, paternal image of you when, there in the world from time to time, you taught me how man makes himself immortal, and how much gratitude I owe for that my tongue, while I still live, must give report. Next.
What you narrate of my career, I write, and keep it to be glossed with other texts by a lady who can do it if I reach her. This much will I have manifest to you, provided that my conscience do not chide me, for whatsoever fortune I am ready. Such hansel is not new unto mine ears. Therefore let fortune turn her wheel around, and it may please her, and it sure his method. My master thereupon on his right cheek did backward turn himself and looked at me, then said, he listened well who noted it, nor speaking less on that account. I go with Ser Brunetto, and I ask who are his most known and most eminent companions. And he to me, to know of some is well, of other it were laudable to be silent, for short would be the time for so much speech. Next, please.
Know them in some, that all of them were clerks, and men of letters great and of great fame in a world tainted with self-same sin. Frisian goes yonder with that wretched crowd, and Francis of a Corso, and thou hadst seen there if thou hadst had a hankering for such scurf. That one who by the servant of the servants from Arno was transferred to Bacchiolone, where he has left his sin-excited nerves. More would I say, but coming and discoursing can be no longer. For that I behold a new smoke uprising yonder from the sand. A people comes with whom I may not be. Commended unto thee be my tesoro, in which I shall live and ask no more. Then he turned round and seemed to be of those who at Verona run for the green mantle across the plain, and seemed to be among them, the one who wins and not the one who loses. Okay, so we've completed the Italian reading all the way through and the English reading all the way through. And now it's time to begin reading smaller sections and trying to puzzle out what we are reading. So I believe we're back to the first English reader again, which would be Sylvia.
Yeah, does somebody want to read this bit? Because I've got a different edition. And then I'll read second because I'll be reading a different bit. I want to hear the other, I want to hear the,
But you want to hear the other first? Okay, John, John the younger, would you like to be the first reader? And then Sylvia will read after you.
All right. Okay. Now bears us onward one of the hard margins, and so the brooklet's mist o'ershadows it. From fire it saves the water and the dikes. Even as the Flemings twixt Sand and Bruges, fearing the flood that towards them hurls itself, their bulwarks build to put the sea to flight. And as the Paduans along the Brenta to guard their villas and their villages, or ever Chiarentana feel the heat, in such similitude had those been made, albeit not so lofty nor so thick, where he may be, the master made them. Now, were we from the forest so remote?
Could we stop there? So first it sounds as though the stream is getting saved from a flood. And then
Okay, so they're walking through the woods or walking along this thing. They're walking next to the woods. Now bears us onward one of the hard margins. Okay. So the brooklet's mist overshadows it. From fires it saves the water and the dikes. So the mist is preventing the fire.
from reaching the stream.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we go on to which is like the Flemings.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go on to the Paduans.
Yeah, this is related to the Netherlands. At the time, you see, in 13th century,
Mm-hmm.
they had floods in Netherlands. They built all these dams against the Rhine, and also in Padova is across they protected from the River Po. Also floods close to Ravenna is marshes from the river. So it's the
what
same
is being,
situation.
I'm sorry, what is being protected? The stream in Padua is being protected from what?
From the River Po. Po is the name of the river.
The River Po. Mm-hmm.
So that it won't overflow.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. Thank you.
It's a comparison,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
they are in these embankments in either side of the river, and is in this embankment there is no flames. The flames are falling down from the sky, from the top.
Right, and well,
fire flame.
right. The amount of fire is actually decreasing as they move away from the blasphemers, and that a kind of fog is able to be created that protects the water from the little bit of flames that there are, is my understanding.
So
Sure.
Musa, is that what his name is?
Mark Musa.
The reference, he's suggesting that the reference as the Flemings living with the constant threat. These cities of Wissant between Bologna and Calais and Bruges in eastern Flanders were both centers of trade during the 13th century. Wissant was an important port city, and Bruges was famous for its extensive trade, especially with Italy. And he goes on, it is not inconceivable that cities such as these, which counted a considerable number of itinerant tradesmen and sailors among their population, might have had a reputation for sodomy during Dante's time. And he goes on to suggest, in the next bit about the Paduans, he suggests that, sorry, he says there's no evidence to support the theory that Padua was renowned for sodomy during the Middle Ages. Anybody, what is, Dee, what have you got in Sayers on this?
Let's see.
Anybody else got any?
Okay, so double simile compares the construction made by God to carry the water of hell towards its final destination to the huge earthworks engineered in Flanders in northern Italy, protect farmland, blah, blah, blah. Caratana probably refers to the mountains north of Padua. Another double comparison, as the poets move from the wood of the suicides and down across the sand along their dikes, they approach a group of the damned. Its members examine them as men looking at one another under a new moon, and as an aging tailor concentrates. The first comparison may suggest the image of homosexuality cruising in the darkest of moonlight nights. It is difficult for the modern reader to imagine how dark the nighttime streets of medieval cities were. The second conveys the intensity of sex gazing. So, and then it has a reference sodomy in Dante's Inferno and Purgatorio.
The only thing that Sayers says is the sodomites are chosen as the image of all perverse vices which damage and corrupt the natural powers of the body. It is here, for instance, that Dante would probably place drug takers and vicious types of alcoholics. Their perpetual fruitless running forms a parallel on a lower level to the aimless drifting of the lustful in Canto 5. That's all she has on
on that.
You know, and I love the line about the master. Where is it? Whoever he might be, the builder of those dikes, the master made them. You know, the one who could figure out how to keep the overflowing.
No, but also in my translation, it's the engineer, whoever he may be, and Musa suggests that's a reference to God.
Well, of course it is. And why would Dante be doubting that? Why would he say whoever that is?
Well, I mean, the engineer and God, you know, are you gonna decide which?
Is he not talking about the actual construction in the real, what we call the real world?
No, I think we're talking about what we're looking at now in hell, in the Inferno. And that phrase just, I couldn't understand it because it's instilling some doubt here. We're looking at some construction in hell, and the question is, gee, I wonder who made that.
I don't know.
He was
I understand what you're saying, but I mean,
he was talking about the construction in the Flemings and the Netherlands and in Padua. No,
well, not in my translation. In my translation, it says, in just the way that these banks were formed, except the architecture. So it's saying, he's talking about the Paduans and the Wizards or whatever. And he says, just the way that these banks, which is these banks is what we're looking at, in just the way that these banks were formed, except the architect, except the architecture has made them not as lofty as nor as thick.
Well, let me attempt a feat of reconciliation here, because you're right, Lois. I mean, if God had made those dikes, what's the point of if he's talking about strictly the construction in hell, then of course your question is great. But if he's actually comparing that to some real life dikes which were made with less material and more elegantly, then at least in my mind, we have a potential reconciliation between the two.
I think we may have to go back to the original Italian to see what the reference is. And I'm not
Yeah.
smart enough to do that.
Well, Decio might be able to do that.
We're in
So,
line 10. Line 10, Decio.
My
In the
really sorry. Just a moment.
So do you know what the question is, Decio?
No, sorry.
Okay, what the question is, of the dikes in the cities and the dikes in hell, both, who is Dante talking about when we get to the line 13? Whoever he might be, in that verse, in such similitude had those been made, the dikes, albeit not
the
so
dikes.
lofty.
It's 10. It's line, it's big, it's the
It
counter.
starts at 10, yeah,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
9. It's in such similitude had those been made, albeit not so lofty nor so thick. Whoever he might be, the master made them. You know what? I'm beginning to see Lois probably. He's talking about the dikes in hell.
But
What do you think,
the
Decio?
dikes were made by God, it seems.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
comparing
getting it.
these dikes on the hell to the dikes in Holland, in the lower countries, and also the dikes to protect the river Po from the farmers, not on the flood. It's the same situation in Italy, north of Italy, like in Holland, no? The lower countries, Netherlands.
I was just,
A situation similar to this, no?
I was going to say that I think what I was take up your point, Decio, that I guess to me it's almost like is lo maestro feli. Is that, I mean, it's translated by Longfellow as the master made them, and I wonder if it might be better translated as a master made them.
Yeah.
In either case, whichever they may be, wherever these things may be, they were made by masters. But it was a master made in either heaven or hell, or I should say, either in Italy or in the Flanders field, and or in hell here.
So that,
And the
that
words
line
in
12,
Dude.
Longfellow's translation is word for word literal.
The master.
Yeah, low is the definite article.
That's the definite article.
One of the
Yeah.
forms of the definite article.
Made it.
Okay.
similitude is about they're like the earthly dikes. They were designed to be like
Mhm.
those dikes.
Yeah. It still may bear that interpretation, I guess, that because there's a comparison being made here,
Yeah.
and that whoever he might be, had those been made, it says, that's the translation here. It says, in such similitude had those been made, albeit not so lofty nor so thick. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you kind of thinking both
Yeah.
is kind of what you would I don't know, kind of almost a natural
Mhm.
way of reading it.
Yeah.
Well, in my translation by Clive James, I don't think that phrase is translated that way at all. Both high and wide, these bastions are built. These, not so much. I think that Clive James just doesn't translate that sentence at all.
It's not specified who built this construction. Right. It can be some master from the time, engineers, or maybe he's talking about God. No, it's not specified. It's not clear.
It's interesting why the line is here and James leaves it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he does a very, very dicey translation.
What kind of translation?
Dicey.
A little imaginative on his part.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't attempt the meter. He doesn't attempt a lot. It's a very vernacular type translation.
Mhm. That's the
Uh,
one I tried. That's the one that seems to be updated, right?
Yes, it's very
Yeah, I
modern.
got it at the library, but I decided to go back to Longfellow.
I did too. I have it, and I also have the Hollander. But anyway, I would like to see a a word for word translation from the Italian to the English of that, because I think that's what I'm missing in when it
Okay,
says
which
whoever he
verses?
was.
Right,
I
what
don't
you talk about from line 10 to what?
So
um
Dicio, do
line
you have
10 through 12.
do
Just
you
10
have
to
the
12?
Italian, Dicio?
Sorry.
Do you have the Italian translation? I mean,
Yeah,
it in Italian?
I have a presentation, information.
Okay,
He got this
you
lo
could
maestro in
wait,
Spanish. Italian is
Dicio,
lo
Dicio.
maestro.
Wait.
Master.
Dicio, stop a minute.
Yes, the
Read
order.
it in Italian and then translate the Italian for us.
Just a moment. A tale immagine erano fatti quelli, tanto che nessi altri, nessi grossi, qual che si fosse lo maestro Feli. Is comparing these dikes with they are big dikes, very strong, and they said it was done by somebody, a maestro. This maestro can be the artifice divino, divine artifice, engineer or builder, something like that.
It can be divine or what?
Divine artifice. I don't know how
Divine
to translate
artist.
artifice. I don't know how
Uh-huh.
to translate in
An
English.
artist.
Artifice is a builder, builder,
Uh-huh. Okay.
a
Yeah.
divine
So
builder. No,
yeah,
maybe
so we
God.
don't really have the answer that Lois is
No,
looking for.
we don't have a literal translation. But
Okay,
the last three words are lo maestro feli, which means the master made it.
the master,
Yeah, made them.
the master made them, yes.
And that's what Dicio read in Italian.
Right.
Lo maestro Feli.
But not
The
There's
necessarily.
no
maestro
question. There's no
the
question
maestro
in the
built it.
Italian.
Was built by the maestro. This artifice.
I think you might maybe say maybe more of a way of gesturing in a sense. It says, I don't know who made these, but in either case, they were made by a master.
Yeah.
Another way of
That's
putting it.
That's
Well,
it.
in my literal translation, which I very crudely just ran through Google Translate, it says the master made them.
Yeah.
That's what John said too.
It doesn't say whoever the master was. It
Right.
says the master
Right.
made them.
No, but it does say whoever he might be.
Well,
I mean,
Casey Fossey.
yeah.
Whatever they were. Well, now my literal translation is a little different. So it says they were made, talking about the dikes or whatever these are. They were made to such an image, although neither so tall nor so big, whatever they were. So it's doing the whatever they were, which you're looking at as whoever that was. This literal translation seems to imply whatever they were is referring to the construction itself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Fossa singular. Fossa is the singular form of the verb.
In modern Italian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The only reason I mentioned that is because, of course, this is not modern Italian. So I don't know, but I think it's okay. I mean, we've had a good discussion about this. Perhaps we have to let sleeping dykes sleep at this point and move on.
All right. So
But I do find it curious that of all the different construction that we've come across in the Inferno, that he would make these comments about this particular one. I can't remember him ever praising any construction in the Inferno up to this point.
Mm-mm.
He's never said things like, well, that was a really beautiful bloody river.
Yeah. Well, let me read just a couple more of these verses here, and then I'll turn it over to Dee Dee if we're done with that discussion.
No, Sylvia's next.
Okay, well, I guess you interrupted where I was going to go, though.
I did. Yeah.
So if I can just finish those three, I was going to just go up to 7 there. So then I'll turn it over to Sylvia. Or Dee Dee, actually, no, it would be Dee Dee, it would be your turn after me. So
yeah, but Sylvia wanted to hear you so that she got the.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that's right. So she would go afterwards. I'm sorry. So, anyways, I'll just do these other 3 one. I'll just want to read here. Now were we from the forest so remote, I could not have discovered where it was, even if backward I had turned myself. When we a company of souls encountered, who came beside the dike, and every one gazed at us as at an evening we are wont to eye each other under a new moon, and so towards us sharpened they their brows, as an old tailor at the needle's eye. Next, okay, Sylvia.
Are we okay? Can we go on?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Eyed in such a way by this strange crew, I was recognized by one of them, who grabbed my garment's hem and shouted, "How marvelous!" And I, when he reached out his arm towards me, straining my eyes, saw through his face's crust, though his burned features could not prevent my memory from bringing back his name, and bending my face down to meet his, I said, "Is this really you here, Sir Brunetto?" And he, "Oh, my son, may it not displease you if Brunetto Latini lets his troop file on while he walks at your side for a little while." Shall I go on?
I think we should probably stop and make sure we have a basic understanding of this part. So, of course, this is supposed to be the famous sodomite thing. So, other than the fact that Brunetto, I guess, had a reputation of being a sodomite, do we have any other evidence that
Well,
this
it
He
comes
was a
up
teacher of Dante. He was a teacher of Dante
as
for
we
Dante.
read,
teacher?
Duncan. That comes. We've read about Brunetto. What you're asking, I think, is answered.
Already? Already?
No, as we read now.
Okay, so all we have to know right now is that he met this guy Brunetti,
Mm-hmm.
and that for some reason, as they pass by these souls, that these souls are looking at them intently.
Because they recognize that Dante isn't dead.
Hmm.
And so they're startled.
Mm. But isn't it curious when you contrast Canto 14 and this, where in the blasphemers, he didn't identify anybody, and here he is.
Oh, yeah, right.
I just find that really curious, where he went into mythology and history, the old man of Crete, and whether that was somebody. And here we are. We have a definite person.
Right. There was no relationship between Dante and the blasphemers, other than a kind of objective relationship.
Right. And it's described here as we read the relationship between the importance of Brunetto to Dante.
And Brunetto died some years before, so he was his maestro in the school or something like that.
Right. And
He had very good respect for this Brunetto.
Right.
So
these verses
admired that he is in hell.
Right.
Maybe he didn't know he was a homosexual or something like that. He is surprised to see Brunetto Latino
Yeah, I think he may have known. Well, he did know. When you keep reading, I'm almost positive that he knew when he met Brunetto. He knew while he was there.
Okay. Well,
Because
perhaps we
he's
should
very surprised to see Brunetto there.
Mhm.
Hmm.
He may be surprised that sodomites are in hell.
Well, and it's not just sodomites.
Okay.
And he
As
says, "Are you here, Sir Brunetto?" He's surprised.
Mm-hmm.
But Duncan or somebody else, do you remember when we first read this? There was a lot of discussion, when Massey was there, about whether they were really referring to whether sodomites meant homosexuality. Does anybody remember
Yes,
a long,
I remember that because as a matter of
long
fact,
discussion?
I went to the university library to get a book on homosexual or man-to-man sex in Florence at that time, of which there was a lot,
All right.
according to the book.
Yeah.
And then I actually, you may not remember this, but I was making the point that actually the ambiguity of man-to-man sex in Florence at that time is essentially that it was very dangerous to have sex with a woman for several reasons. One, her relatives might kill you. And two, the pregnancy was a distinct possibility at that time. And so, just because the men engaged in man-to-man sex, that did not necessarily mean that they were homosexual. It just meant that they wanted a safer sexual release under those circumstances.
Similar to being in prison.
Similar to being in prison, right? Where
But
you
in
don't have
Greece, the old Greece, homosexuality was normal. Remember the case of
Mhm.
Achilles and Patroclus. They were engaged in love.
Mhm.
And also, isn't there a very easy connection between a teacher and a student for this kind of relationship?
good.
Well, there's certainly opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always suspected. There was almost like a cliche, so many teachers, so many pederasts or whatever word you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a complicated business in the Greco-Roman world, in the Greek world, because there are certain norms that are supposed to be followed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Athenian view, an older man and an adolescent, with the understanding that that adolescent will outgrow that role,
Mm-hmm.
and between two individuals of equal status, it could be problematic. It would be viewed as problematic, and in Rome, that was certainly the case. Social equals should not be engaging in same-sex relations, but that behavior with slaves or lower class individuals would be okay. And it was also in both societies important to distinguish what role one was playing. What role one was playing. There's no vocabulary for that in English, and almost I always this came up every time I taught a history class or some of the literature classes, and I had to alert them no matter what terms are used, it's going to be a little bit offensive So what I came up with finally, because the old books would say something like play the woman's role or something like that, and I wasn't going to use that terminology. So I just came up with inserter and insertee. But no,
That's pretty clinical.
well, that was the other thing with the classes. I'm dealing with 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds.
Yes.
And I found the only way to do this is to be clinical, or you're going to get them, or I'm probably going to end up at the dean's office.
Yes.
So, Lois, I see now. I think Dante didn't realize that Brunetti was a sodomite. Yeah.
That could well be, because I mean the question almost seems to, you're here, like,
Yeah.
surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that was going to be my question, John. What was the terminology? So you've answered it very aptly
Well,
there.
in Rome, just one quick example. Somebody, this is in the Empire, and I can't remember if it's under Claudius or Nero, but it doesn't matter. But somebody's being accused of treason, and they add onto it the charge that he has allowed himself to be an insertee or something like that. And he says to the prosecutor, yeah, well, if you don't think I'm a man, ask your sons about it. And you see,
That's a real good way to win favor with the prosecutors, I'm
well,
sure.
when you're going to be executed anyway,
Oh, okay.
kangaroo
Nothing
court,
to
you might
lose.
as well go out swinging.
That's
But the point is, same-sex relations were not the shameful thing, and it wasn't illegal at all anyway. But same-sex relations were not the issue. It's what part you were playing in that same-sex relation. And we don't view it that way at all, right? We don't have terminology for that or anything.
Right. Let me point out, this is from Barolini, and this is her note related to her notes for Canto 15. And she writes, if we consider the Commedia as a whole, Dante's progressive stance with respect to sodomy is very clear.
Yeah.
In Purgatorio 26, Dante places two groups on the terrace of lust, a heterosexual group and a homosexual group. He thus effectively presents a group of saved sodomites. So that would imply that while we are working on Canto 15 Inferno, we need to figure out why those particular sodomites are in hell.
Well, later on in this canto, he says, there are people here who are really bad, because Dante asks, who are these friends you're with?
You, Lois.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
What line?
Okay, let me see. 102, 103.
No, quite a bit further. Okay.
Yes, but he says, I go on speaking, asking who of his companions are the most eminent, most worthy to be known. And he responds, some of them it is good to know, others it is better not to mention. So even there, even in Brunetto's mind, there are people who are worse. There are grades of this.
Okay, grades of okay.
I have a feeling that we're not knowing, and not only particularly why. I mean, the whole issue of sodomites being in hell, we don't even know at this point why is Brunetto in hell here. And I think that's laid out here somewhat. And I think there's a lot of questions I have about some of these upcoming verses that may clarify things for me, if not for anybody else. So
okay, you're absolutely. I think you're absolutely right, and at this particular point. We are kind of jumping ahead in the discussion here.
Yep.
And perhaps we should go back and concentrate on this early interaction between Dante and Ser Brunetto,
Mm.
and then deal with the evidence as it appears.
Right.
Okay, so Sylvia.
No, I'm finished. On to DD.
Okay, so
Okay.
Dee Dee.
I made reply, "Are you here, Sir Brunetto?" And he, "May it not displease thee, O my son, if a brief space with thee, Brunetto Latini, backward return and let the trail go on." I said to him, "With all my power I ask it, and if you wish me to sit down with you, I will, if he please, for I go with him." He must be talking to Virgil there.
He's
Oh, I
asking
see,
Virgil
yeah.
for permission. He's saying if it's okay with Virg, I'll sit down
Right.
and have a chat
"Oh,
with you.
son," he said, "whoever of this herd a moment stops lies then 100 years, nor fans himself when smiteth him the fire. Therefore go on, I at thy skirts will come, and afterward will I rejoin my band, which goes lamenting its eternal doom." Anything? Anybody? I could go on a little bit more then. I did
Well,
not,
mhm.
oh, maybe there was.
Let's see. So going back to line 34, Dante is saying, hey, if it's okay with Virgil, I'll sit down and talk with you. And then Latini says, oh, my son, whoever this herd a moment stops, lies then 100 years, nor fans himself, and smiteth the and therefore go on, and I at thy skirts will come. Oh, okay, I got it. So Dante's talking about sitting down with Latini, and Latini says, no, don't sit down with me. Keep walking, and I will walk with you. And then I'll run back and join my group after our conversation is over.
This suggest he says if we stop, we have to lie down for 100 years.
If we sit,
So that punishment is what the blasphemers had, right? Weren't they? They were lying. The blasphemers were lying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
the different.
it seems like if we're going to have a hierarchy of sins, this is a lesser one or a lesser form. I guess it's all blasphemy, but it's a lesser form of it.
Okay. But in practical fact, he says, no, I don't want to stop. Let me run along with you while we talk, and then I'll run back and join my group.
Mhm.
It was forbidden to sit down and talk with strangers.
punishment, yeah.
Well, punishment would be you'd have to lie down for 100 years.
I thought there was no sense of time here.
You're
Just throwing it in. I thought so.
I think there is a sense of time in the Inferno. But in Paradiso, we step beyond time.
And there's definitely time in Purgatorio.
And there's definitely time in Purgatorio because you got to serve your time in order to move up the ladder.
Dante stayed in the Inferno during 2 or 3 days. I don't remember, but it says somewhere.
Right.
Stay 2 or 3 days, 2 days and 3 nights, or something like this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe. We haven't heard. What's wrong with Mr. Little tonight? We haven't.
He is here.
We haven't heard from him.
That's true.
You're
He's
not on the
very
list.
quiet, unusually quiet.
I am.
Oh,
You didn't put
Are
on
you
your
okay,
sign.
Dave? Are you
I'm
okay?
fine. No, I'm fine. I'm just taking in the discussion and
Okay.
doing a
Wanna
little back
check.
channel
Wanna
researching
check.
at the time too.
No,
Okay.
Yeah,
no,
I trust Dave to leap in.
Sorry, there is a very interesting article in Wikipedia on Latini's presence in the Inferno, and I must confess that I was looking that over.
All right, and you'll be sharing with us that with us at
I can
some.
put the you know what, I can put the reference in the chat if you guys would like. I'll just throw it in the chat.
Yeah. Now, I noticed though that I don't see Dave's name in the list of readers here.
It's true. I thought I was
I think
taken
he's
off the
overlooked
list.
here.
Oh
for,
my God!
I thought I was
Yeah.
cut because I was living in the place that had the least rainfall of anybody present.
You know, I may be that churlish, but I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough.
Wasn't deliberate.
You're living in an unnourishing place there. So
Oh, I sure do understand it wasn't deliberate.
no.
I didn't think it was.
Well, nevertheless, I extend my apologies for the oversight.
Oh, not at all.
Well, maybe we should move on with John.
I would just say since I have been singled out here that I did also do a little bit of looking up for a definition of blasphemy, and generally speaking, we were in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Dante makes a distinction, and I think John from Ohio, kind of noted this, that there are the schismatics, there are the heretics, and there are the blasphemers, and so that there's like definitely a distinction being made here.
Okay.
And I put the if I didn't say this already, I just put the Wikipedia entry on in the chat, and it's the part on his presence in the Divine Comedy is interesting.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. And who's reading?
Well, maybe Dave should read since we skipped you.
Okay, Dee, for you, I will happily do this.
Okay.
Okay, but I have
Sorry.
something to say after just read 3 lines and then
Okay.
I have something to say.
Okay. I think he says. I think you left off at the end of the quotation. I think it's line 43. I
Yeah.
durst not, okay, is that correct? I durst not venture from the road to pace beside him, so I walked with down-bent head like some devout soul in a holy place. And I now turn it over for commentary to Mr. John from Ohio.
Yeah, well, a few weeks ago when we were with the heretics, and I raised this question about, because he said, like someone who is feel sympathy, something like that.
Mhm.
And Lois raised the question, maybe that's just an idiot. Like, I was wondering, does he really feel sympathy or is he just acting like it? Because it says like somebody. And Lois raised the question that maybe it's a figure of speech. And I think this answers that, because he certainly has respect for this individual.
Mhm.
And he is that same like someone who goes reverently. So
Mhm.
I think that answers Lois's question that I wasn't in a position to answer. And my question, that it is just a figure of speech when he says like somebody. Anyway, that's all.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. Good point. And 43 through 45 seem pretty clear. So he is actually walking on a higher level than Latini is. It's like Latini's walking in a ditch.
Yeah, well, Latini grabbed his hem. That's how this whole meeting began. So it's like he reached up and grabbed his hem.
And grabbed his hand. Okay.
Hem, the hem of his clothes.
Hem.
H-E-M.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So that's a very interesting image of Latini walking in a ditch holding Dante's hem. While Dante,
Well,
said,
he didn't necessarily walk with him holding his hem.
I
He
had visions of him swimming alongside him.
"Oh, you think he's swimming?"
I think he's swimming alongside him because we've got this levee where Dante and Virgil are walking, and I have visions of the water underneath, and the levee is going over them.
Okay.
I
I would
think,
just bring,
Decio has a photograph.
yeah, for sure. Good. Right.
but I don't think he held on to his hem. He just grabbed him at the moment, in the moment when he recognized him.
Well, Longfellow says, "I at thy skirts will come."
That he's saying, but is he holding the skirt?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, in my translation, it says,
Well,
"Who caught me by the hem and then cried out, qual maravilloso, how marvelous." So that's line 23, 24.
Mm-hmm.
but remember that Dante was talking about sitting down and having a chat with him, and Latini said, "No, don't sit down. If we sit down, I'm going to have to lie down for 100 years."
But I envision Dante sitting on the dock of a bay with his feet dangling over into the water area where the
Okay.
where the dams are.
Okay.
No, it's interesting. You know that song where they talk about the levees? I never knew what levees were until, they're dikes, aren't they? We
Yes.
call them dikes. Yeah.
Yes, drove my Chevy to the levee, and the levee was
Yeah.
everywhere, Sylvia.
It was
That
right.
date us.
All right.
But I never really knew, and I never knew what it was until.
Well, that has to do with major rivers like the Mississippi River, which they build these wooden ramparts called levees. So when there's excessive rainfall and the river rises, 2 or 3 times its normal height, the levees can contain the water.
Yeah.
But it's a dike.
Yeah.
It is a dike, but it would be like a dike. How do I put it? Like I have what's called wet weather creeks, which means when it rains a lot, I actually have creeks. Otherwise, it's dry. And these are like wet weather phenomena. It's only when the river is flooding that the dikes are useful. Maybe I'm making stuff up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Will we get Dave to go on?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was just looking up the meaning of the word wadi. For the Arabs, what you have is a wadi. They're dry, except during rainy season, kind of thing. Duncan, yeah, wadis.
Yeah, wadis.
And they're dangerous.
Yes. Funny, isn't it, how this discussion, in spite of our best efforts, always seems to circle back to issues of rainfall and moisture. I just thought I would put that out.
It's a big deal.
Here we go. Okay. He thus began, "What chance or fate has led thy footsteps here before thy final day? And who is this that guides thee?" So I said, "Up in the sunlit life I lost my way in a dark vale, before my years had come to their full number. Only yesterday at morn I turned my back upon its gloom. This other came, found me returning there, stopped me, and by this path now leads me home." Is that a natural break, or do you want me to carry on?
Let me make one comment. I think it's very interesting that he said he describes it as up there above us in the life serene, which is where he lost his way and he was in the dark forest. Just this little contradiction to his description of life serene. Onward, Dave.
Okay, so it's the equivalent of of all the gin joints in all the world. She had to wander into mine. I mean, that's essentially what's happening here. Okay, and he made answer. Follow but thy star, thou canst not fail to win the glorious haven, if in glad life my judgment did not err. Had I not died too soon, I would have given counsel and aid to cheer thee in thy work, seeing how favored thou hast been by heaven. But that ungrateful, that malignant folk, which formerly came down from Fiesole, and still is grained of mountain and hewn rock, for thy good deeds will be thine enemy, with cause. For where the bitter sloes are rooted is no fit orchard for the sweet fig tree. A blind people, and always so reputed, proud, envious, covetous, since times remote, cleanse off their customs, lest thou be polluted. Fortune has honors for thee, of such note both sides will seek to snatch thee and devour, but yet the good grass shall escape the goat. Let Fiesole's wild beasts scratch up their sour, litter themselves from their rank native weed, nor touch the plant, if any such can flower, upon their midden, in whose sacred seed survives the Roman line left there to dwell, when this huge nest of vice began to breed.
It's quite a speech.
Mhm. So,
Foretelling a Dante letting us know what he foresaw about his own fate.
Yeah, that part of it is clear.
Yeah.
what are the people, or I guess he calls them beasts too, the people of Fasole?
Yeah, good question.
Didn't Florence allow the Fiesolans into their area? The Fiesolans were like barbarians who weren't from Florence, but Florence sort of accepted them or allowed them to come into parts of Italy.
What my
They
notes
mixed it with the Romans. They mixed it
Yeah.
with the Romans.
Yeah, they mixed with the Romans, so they diluted and polluted the bloodlines of the Romans.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what Sarah's talks about in the notes.
There's one for John. Kathleen fled Rome.
Oh, yeah.
These are-
He tried to stage a coup. He was of a noble Roman family and kept failing. Good timing, dogs. Kept failing to win election to high office. So he organized a coup, and the headquarters of it were up in that area around Fiesole. And I think because Florence was not an old Roman city, and I think the idea was, and it may not be accurate, that Florence was founded by Roman soldiers who defeated Catiline. That doesn't make much sense. Why would they stay up there and not go home?
Mhm.
I think that's the idea that Dante is expressing here about the seed of those Romans who remained there
Mhm.
when this nest of such great malice it became. So the Romans went up there, defeated Catiline's forces.
Ah,
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Right. If you took high school Latin, you may have read one of Cicero's speeches denouncing Catiline.
Oh,
Yeah, but from Hollander's notes, the basic impression is that that was a mistake, letting those damn Fisolians pollute the population of Florence.
hmm.
Unfortunately, their descendants, the Florentine nobility, allowed the surviving Fiesolans to immigrate and mix their base population with the Roman stock. For Dante, and all the cities and his own troubles stem from this original mistake.
You know, it's interesting that Faisal is such a short distance. It costs €1 on the bus to go to Faisal. It's only up on the hill. I mean, I just find that fascinating that it's so close. It's like a suburb.
Next time you go to Florence, Sylvia, you need to find out if the people in Florence are still complaining about the Fasolians.
That's where
Did we
that's where
say
the
that?
Decameron is set, right? To get away from plague in Florence.
Oh,
They
the
go up.
young kids went up there?
Yeah, it's just a few miles away, but much higher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did we say that the Romans built, the city fell, and then the Romans they the Romans destroyed Florence and then they rebuilt it. And
Florence,
people were half Thessalians and half Romans. To be peopled by half Thessalians and half Romans.
Once again, to read Hollander, let's see, Brunetti, like Farinata, prophesies Dante's return. Farinetti's sense of the history of Florence, perhaps reflecting his own treatment of this subject in his first book, Tresor, which would have been written by Brunetto, puts forth the legend that Florence was populated by the Romans after they destroyed neighboring Fiesole in order to put an end to the Catalines' conspiracy. And then it goes on to talk about the Floresians polluting Florence.
Well, but it became, when the city fell, Fiesole, the Romans built a new one, Florence, according to Sayers.
Yeah,
okay.
Florence didn't exist until a few years later, where Julius Caesar, started settling veterans there.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So Dante's view here kind of telescopes that the Catilinarian conspiracy was only 4 years earlier. But anyway, but yeah, Florence was founded by Romans.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
wasn't there before. Like Fiesole was Etruscan. Right, so that had been there a long time.
Yeah. I need to move on. I have that kind of a day. So I hope to see everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, all right. And Didi, could you hear? Oh, she's gone.
Okay. Do we want to continue on, or do we want to?
On Joseph, just the beginning of the speech of Catilina, original Marcus Tullius Cicero, quo usque tandem abutere Catilina patientia nostra, quam diu essiam furor iste tuus eluder. Starting the Catilinarias.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is a long diatribe about the Fisoli.
Why don't we just continue a little bit more to finish discussion, a little bit more discussion of this diatribe that he's,
Yeah, okay.
because I think we haven't gotten to the part of the seed of the Romans and so forth, and then
Okay.
and Dante's reply.
Okay. Who is reading next? Dave, did you finish?
Yeah, I'll turn it on to the next person, whomever that may be. Whoever that may be.
Is that John?
The next person, let's see, Lois, did you read?
No, I don't think so. And did John read?
John the Senior, did you read?
I don't think so.
I think
Okay,
it's
so
John's
you would be the one.
If my entreaty wholly were fulfilled, replied I to him, not yet would you be in banishment from human nature place. For in my mind is fixed and touches now my heart the dear and good paternal image of you when in the world from hour to hour you taught me how a man becomes eternal. And how much I am grateful while I live behooves it in my language be discerned. What you narrate of my career I write, and keep it to be glossed with other text by a lady who can do it if I reach her. This much will I have manifest to you, provided that my conscience do not chide me, for whatsoever fortune I am ready. Such hansel is not new unto mine ears. Therefore let fortune turn her wheel around, as it may please her, and the churl his mattock.
Hmm. Hmm. So certainly, I mean, this is Dante is certainly this is where Dante reveals his admiration and his tribute to him for how much he's to his life, and I think he's in a sense it's like this is almost like a tribute to the poem that he the poem we're reading here, this poem, and it's like it was a tribute to him that he's the man he is today in writing this poem because of Brunetto.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then it suggests that there's a reference to Beatrice.
Yeah.
Yes, he's going to discuss this with her when he sees her.
Mm.
That seems to be, yeah.
But it's kind of bizarre, isn't it, that he's having this he's professing admiration in the middle of hell. God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You taught me how a man makes himself immortal.
Mm.
How does a man make himself immortal?
By writing a great poem.
What, Duncan, did you say? I didn't hear what you said, Duncan.
By writing a great poem, immortal
okay.
poem.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So Latini, my understanding at this point is Brunetto Latini was teaching Dante how to write poetry.
Mm.
And you might, I might as well point out the irony that although Latini is in hell, that Dante is making him immortal.
Oh,
by having so many lines about him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And is Brunetto the only contemporary of Dante that we see in the Inferno?
There'll be a few in the next canto.
Yeah, we're going to see more.
I can't remember if they're contemporary or very close.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and there's the fellow who was asking about his son. I don't think it was
Oh, yeah,
Fairmount
back in
in the Heretics.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah.
And then there was the
Right.
glutton too, who he said the fellow was the glutton, I think back a few cantos ago.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
God. Yeah.
I guess maybe this is what is a hand cell? What is a hand cell? This is what we
Where-
talk.
Where is the word Hansel? Where is that word?
This is in the translation by Longfellow.
It's a greeting.
It's-
But I didn't know that it's negative.
Said
That's-
greeting.
It's like a greeting,
Okay, okay.
but
Sorry, what are you saying, John?
What line are you
What the
quoting it
word
from?
means.
Well, it's this. It's the my lines aren't numbered here, so I can't tell you what number. It just says this translation is what John just read here. Such handsel is not new unto mine ears. Therefore, let fortune turn her wheel around, as it may please her, and the churl his mattock. And that, I mean, that whole verse is kind of it's a very poetic kind of verse, but I'm not sure what that the churl his mattock. Who's the churl? The mattock would be, I guess. Yeah, those are kind of old-fashioned words.
No, in mine, it's the prophecy. John,
Yeah.
what
Yeah. According to the internet, a gift given for good luck at the beginning of the year or to mark an acquisition or the start of an enterprise. So,
Oh,
Mhm.
Well, I guess so. Then, therefore, let fortune turn her wheel around, as it may please her, and the churl his mattock. So I don't know who the churl is, but if that's referring to him or somebody, so I guess he's noting the irony here. But maybe things are just really turned around. So, but let's if I've been taught maybe by somebody who's in your position, then well, you taught me everything I know, and so let's let's let fortune be our guide, and or whatever happens will happen, I guess.
Yeah.
Let fortune turn her wheel as she pleases, and let
Yeah.
time continue its relentless course.
Yeah.
And then it has a thing here that I'll say there's an old and for a reading of the peasant that is based in the representation of Saturn as an old and tired farmer carrying a spade or mattock, and thus key to the allegorical understanding of Saturn as time.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
That's churl. Okay.
Let,
Mattock.
let the
Shovel.
let the latter. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
yeah. Let time.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think I'm losing the trees for the forest here. Can somebody just reorient me and tell me where Latini is identified in the text as to use, and John, I'm sensitive to what you talked about, but Sayers uses the term sodomite. Where am I zeroing in on this? So why
There's
are
nothing.
we, okay, Lois, then why are we saying, why does everybody say that he is one?
According to Hollander, that whole thing about men in the dark and looking at other men as a tailor looks through the eye of his needle,
Okay.
somehow is supposed to communicate that this is about sodomites.
Okay.
I'm not convinced.
Fair enough.
There are
Not
people
either.
who say
No,
there are people who
that may
say
be
that has
that may be
nothing to do
some
with it.
yeah. That may be
There
some mid 20th century back reading of some things of our modern culture into Dante's poetry here, but it may really that doesn't. I don't think that's really not very much evidence at all for that. for that kind of interpretation, I don't
And-
think.
Yeah.
We're still left with the problem, though, of why are they there? And
And why-
why
yeah,
are
but
they
that's
getting
exactly
this
right, yeah.
particular punishment?
I know.
So, I
And
mean,
you know,
maybe we don't have that many lines to go, frankly. Let's see, we got 24, we've got like 30 lines to go.
I'm going to have to sign off, but if we look
Okay.
back at Canto 11, where Virgil is describing what they're going to be seeing, he mentions Sodom there.
Can you
Uh-huh.
give me a line number?
And that's where we are now.
John,
Could you
and
could you give me a
This is-
line number, please, on that one, John?
50, line
Around-
50.
Yeah, 50.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, let's leave it in the mystery realm for the moment. But I think John, the senior, has given us a good clue. But definitely this is not that heavy into talking about sodomy. It's mainly heavy into talking about the relationship between Brunetto Latini, and Dante, and the prediction for Dante's future.
I'm off. But
Okay, yeah,
see
and I
everybody
you.
next
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really helpful, John. Thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah, it was.
But I mean, should we sort of leave it here and finish that up?
Yeah. I think so. Anybody
know-
have more to say before we?
Yeah, I have a comment in that Brunetto never confesses to anything. There's never any explanation from him as to why he's there. Whereas
Right.
the other cantos, we hear from the people themselves sometimes how they got there.
Yes, you are right.
That's a good point. Thank you. Yeah, that's right.
That's why I find that's why I'm saying I'm a little mystified about who are this group of people, and talking about them looking at other people like men in the dark, looking through the eye of a needle is not exactly hot evidence, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
Anyway, let the mystery be until next week. Do you
Right.
know that singer, Iris DeMent?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
okay.
It was a theme song to a television program, The Leftovers.
Oh, was it? No,
Yeah.
I just love. I saw her once recently, and well, not recently, before COVID. So
Okay.
Okay, well, till next
Well,
week.
See you next time.
I'm gonna click the button and
Thanks.
we'll
All
meet
right.
again next week. And I think Decio got a haircut. Did you get a haircut, Decio?
oh yeah, yes, we did.
Look at
Yeah,
me.
it looks like he not only got a haircut, but a little styling going on there.
Well, I got one too, in case you didn't know.